Well, we've seen Rodney become a highly evolved human and seen him be mistaken for a god by some people who are really into painting. So I guess now is the time to see poor Rodney brought low. And we get it right from the get-go, as with prompting he tries to talk into the camera, but he sounds like... Welcome to my comedy show. After spending last weekend exploring the political spectrum's views on unemployment and homelessness, today it's cracking jokes about a dying man who has lost all his brilliance. I guess I'll have to make clear right from the start that this is going to be a more serious video. We're talking about important medical issues here, the complex moral questions which inevitably come to mind when we consider terminal illness or physical and mental deterioration, the long-lasting consequences and the impact on friends and loved ones, and often one's sense of personal dignity. We cannot, we must not make light of those who are enduring physical or mental pain. We have to treat this always as a topic to be respected and ensure that these people are allowed to maintain their human dignity at all times. This is a matter of the utmost seriousness. Before I go any further, I should add that there have been some personnel changes on the show, because this is from the show's final season. So if you are working your way through the show right now and don't want to know who might leave and who might come in, you might want to turn this video off right now, okay? Okay, final spoiler warning. The new commander of this operation is Gary Coleman. No, actually it's Robert Picardo, who is filling in Rodney's sister on how far gone he is and that he doesn't have much time left. His sister has helped out before, so she's unfazed by the spaceships and the stargates and just worried about how her brother is dying due to a reverse flowers for Algernon. That was the inspiration for this episode, written by creator Brad Wright, who gave us a lot of the landmark episodes of both of these series. This all started several weeks prior. Their team was going through to check up on another team that was overdue for checking in. Woolsey, Picardo's character, is a notorious stickler. That's why the top team is going in just for an everything okay mission. Well, everything is not okay. The team was studying global warming on this planet and was doing so near the bottom of a glacier. Seems it was holding back a small lake, and it burst, wiping out the camp and flooding the gate. The whole situation depends on a lot of Stargate lore, okay? So I'll try to fill you in. The gates work in only one direction for everything, save for certain energy forms like radio waves. So the gate to go there had no problem. Then they materialized underwater when they arrived. So naturally John dials back to Atlantis, and Atlantis automatically raises their shield to keep Wraith from coming in and eating them all. They have to wait for the signal. Well, in this case, John tells them don't lower that because right now the shield is stopping the water from rushing back the other way because it's connected the opposite direction now. If they lowered the shield, they would, ironically, flood all of Atlantis. So the team is stuck until the water recedes. But they'll die of hypothermia if nothing is done for them, so to get a warm, dry place, they're going to ask them to send a puddle jumper back the other direction once they've dialed that way, and it won't flood because it will only go one way this time that way, and then they can go into the puddle jumper, wait it out. When the water's receded, they can dial back again, come back through the puddle jumper the other way, and everything will be safe. Got all that? There's going to be a test later. The only problem is that they're going to have to wait about a half hour for the gate to shut down because the pressure of the water is keeping the gate open, but around 30-some minutes, the gates will automatically shut down no matter what, and then they can have the jumper through and be all nice and warm. While they're waiting, Rodney's doing one of the things that he excels at, bitching about the situation. Although he's running a fever and just been soaked in ice water, so I think we can forgive him that little faux pas. And he makes up for it later after the rescue. He gets checked out and is quite nice to everybody. He has a positive outlook and just is a pleasant person to be around. As they said later, they should have taken that as a sign that something is wrong. Rodney McKay has many fine traits, don't misunderstand. It's just that slightly being a dick is kind of his default personality trait. Dr. Keller feels really bad about this whole thing, not seeing those signs until it was too late to cure him. She's tried every medical treatment short of drilling holes in his head to let the demons out, but nothing seems to be working. It's heartbreaking for Jeannie, his sister, to see him like this. So Ronan says that there is something they can do, a way to say goodbye with Rodney fully cognizant, but there's a snag. Of course there would be, or else we would have done it by now. This condition is actually quite common among the very old in the Pegasus Galaxy. It's called the second childhood. The theory is that likely everyone gets exposed at some point but just naturally fights it off. But in Rodney's case, he was sick with a virus, submerged in freezing water, and then left to freeze into a macasicle. So he couldn't fight it off, and now there's a parasite in his brain, which is probably the worst news you can give to a man who both defines himself by his genius and is a hypochondriac. Even telling him, "I'm afraid you've been infected with a testicle-eating bacteria," probably wouldn't elicit as much fear in him. Anyway, in a flashback, Ronan explains about the shrine on one of the ancient special worlds that you can visit, and anyone afflicted by second childhood becomes their old self again for one day. So it gives you a chance to say goodbye to the person that they were and not what the condition has turned them into. But this is where that snag comes in. Actually, snags plural. The Wraith have set up an outpost on that planet, and they're not going to give pilgrims a very inviting welcome. There's also the fact that this is a scientific expedition, so most of the people here are skeptical of stuff that sounds like magic. They decide to ask Rodney what he wants, but problem is he's not capable of understanding any of this anymore. Basically, he just agrees with whoever's been talking to him last, like a guy in a bar who's desperate to get laid. "Yeah, sure, all the ancient monuments were probably built by aliens, a pyramid, Stonehenge, Mount Rushmore? Oh yeah, well, of course. What more proof do you need it was built by aliens who could see the future, right? Hey, why don't we get out of here and talk about this in private, huh?" So Keller gets to pull rank and say, no, he's staying put. But now that Jeannie is here, she gets the deciding vote, and she wants to go to the shrine, which actually was built by ancient aliens now that I think about it. Heading to a Wraith-controlled planet's no picnic. Well, actually, they are planning to have a picnic once they get there, but this will be one worthy of inclusion in Extreme Picnicking magazine, because they have to pass 2 Wraith ships in order to get to the site. So they send through a Malp to set up a distracting smoke screen, fly through the gate, cloak, and sneak past the Wraith in stealth. Piece of cake, which hopefully everyone can eat once they reach the picnic site. The shrine is a piece loaded with flashbacks and video clips, which in a lot of shows can go badly, seeming superfluous, disjointed, and sometimes even confusing. The shrine, however, is an episode where this all goes right, allowing us to see Rodney in various stages of the condition, but not in order, in a similar way to how a mystery might work, except instead of a crime, it's how we got from his normal state into the one that he is now. In addition, we're handed the scenes in just the right order to inform us of how the past affects the present. Probably the most evident is the flashback Shepard has on the way to the site. We'd seen throughout how just about the only comforting thing for Rodney in his current state is Shepard. And now Shepard remembers Rodney on the fateful night when he runs screaming through the city looking for him in the middle of the night. But not because he's lost his intelligence, but simply out of sheer terror.
I got so scared I was sure that by morning what was left of my mind was going to be gone.
I'm going to take you back to your quarters, okay?
John, I've never been so scared. I'm slipping away and I don't know how to stop myself.
Shepard takes him out onto the pier to have a few brews and chat, but one thing he refuses to do is say goodbye right now while Rodney is still mostly himself. So Rodney finally relents on that topic. The episode really shows what good friends these two have become over the years, despite the snide remarks they may send back and forth. And we also see why Shepard is willing to go along with this plan despite the risk and its seeming impossibility. The chance to say goodbye to the real Rodney might not come again, and he doesn't want to pass that up. They arrive, and while Rodney whimpers unpleasantly, Keller picks up weird energy readings coming from the tablet on this rock pillar, which probably explains why Rodney finally screams and is his old self again. Though it doesn't take long to remember why he could be a problem when he's his old self again, because they're trying to have a tender moment and, well, we have this.
Well, you can start with, what is this place?
It's the Shrine of Talos.
That means nothing to me?
It's the planet of the ancestors. We brought you here.
Thank you, Mr. Information. Since when did he become Ronan the Explainer?
His elation at having his faculties back is quickly dashed when he learns he's not cured, that he just has 1 day left.
And then what? I die?
With honor.
And dignity.
Yeah, well, screw that. I'll just stay here.
Rodney's not a coward, but he will happily pass on a dignified death when there's an undignified exit being offered. Of course, the reason he's reacting that way is because he got great news, followed seconds later by the worst news he could possibly get. That can be a little stressful, and Rodney prefers to voice his frustrations. But he soon gets that this is as much for them as it is for him, and it is a sign that they care about him deeply. I mean, they took a risk just for this chance to say goodbye to him, so his attitude softens a bit. But what really intrigues him is Keller's suggestion that there has to be something more at work here. And Rodney figures that this wasn't made as a shrine, but was some kind of facility the ancients built that broke down and is releasing unusual low-level radiation that they're detecting. After a bit of unpleasant experimentation, they figure out that the reason for the shrine's healing isn't magic, well, duh, but that this radiation here is attacking the parasite even worse than it's attacking anyone else. So the parasite contracts as a way to protect itself, which is why you get your memory back. But then after a day, the radiation starts making you feel sick, so you leave, the parasite expands rapidly, and so you die. However, with it contracted, it's now small enough to be removed through surgery. It's just that that surgery can only be done in this here cave. Well, this is every bit as bad as it sounds, but don't worry, it gets worse. With the Wraith present, they can't get supplies from Atlantis to perform the operation. Even if they called in a second jumper and it managed to avoid detection, it'd tip off the Wraith that something was going on here. They would quickly find them, and then it would be a pretty bad yeah. So the only choice is to operate using whatever they have lying around, which means the construction tools from the jumper and a jerry-rigged life signs detector to serve as a scanner, and hoping that he doesn't get a lethal infection from being operated on while leaning against a damp cave wall with his immune system compromised by radiation. Though I suppose if they're lucky, the radiation has killed all the germs in here.
And as my parting advice, you need to stop letting these guys talk you into doing stupid things.
Rodney is understandably distraught at the whole prospect, especially of undergoing brain surgery while conscious.
I have enough anesthetic to put you out. You're not going to feel a thing.
That's probably a hammer.
Don't be absurd. It's probably a pipe wrench. They get the surgery going, but let's face it, this is ridiculous even by their standards. This isn't even a Hail Mary pass. This is a part the Red Sea pass. So how's the Black & Decker medical drill working out for the brain surgery?
Yeah, I went too far. Hold him steady.
But then that good luck we've been waiting for finally pays off. The parasite wants to get away from the radiation, even if it means getting out of Rodney's skull, so it squirms through the opening, and this is solved the way all medical crises really should be solved, with Ronan shooting the disease. And who knew that drilling holes in his head to let the demons out is exactly what the situation called for? I guess we owe all those medieval doctors an apology. Rodney recovers, and while he and Jeannie talk, we see what's been motivating Keller this whole time, as she rewatches a segment of Rodney's previous tests, where he confesses how much he cares for her, and we know that she reciprocates. Tearjerkers all around, and we can start planning our skydiving picnic. The shrine is very popular with fans, but there is a minimal height requirement to riding this ride. Its strength depends very much on an investment in the characters. Without that, it probably just seems like a Hallmark Channel snooze fest. But with it, it's a very touching and poignant episode, with lots of the characters having a chance to show different sides to them. Even Woolsey gets a touching moment as he recounts his father's battle with Alzheimer's and the importance of that moment of clarity. For that reason, I'm giving this a stamp of recommended, but again, only once you've been invested in the characters. Major props to the effects guys, by the way, for really going above and beyond this week, both with the incredible view of Rodney and Shepard on the pier, and for the quartet on the Stargate amidst the flooded lake. Hewlett rises to the occasion with this chance to explore his range, and his real-life sister returns as his character sister, which adds further warmth to the scene and underscores the complexity of their relationship. All in all, this is a very enjoyable break from the status quo.
Look, my brain is not some new deck off the back of your house.
I'm not the one doing the surgery.